Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. Welcome back to the even segment. Yes, Monday night chats and discussions and everything Arsenal, red and white. Hey, and there's certain players that finally left. Yeah, the building at Arsenal. Anyway, but listen, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about it on Wednesday. It's going to be like a Wednesday night special. It's going to be a massacre. So it's going to be a massacre.
A clear out.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I've got El Teo, the Richard Godfather, back, and I've got James Rose, one of my good friends. So, yeah, we'll talk on the other side of this music intro, everything Arsenal, right here on Cannon Fodder TV. Yes. Welcome back to Cannon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. It's the last segment of the day. You know, I upload so many pre-recorded bits and pieces for the whole day because there's no more there's no more morning shows until the half term. Hotel. Can you hold up until the half term? Hotel.
That was the only thing getting me up these days.
Yeah. But I'll be back in action in the half term.
I've been thinking that people go on to shows like this, because it gives you a little bit of something to think about, distract yourself from the pandemic, and you can think about your favourite team. I've never gone on any West Ham ones or whatever, but I'm sure there are, and I'm sure it serves the purpose that, of course, the Hillwood said football does. It's for people that are working hard and need something to look forward to, or are in the middle of a pandemic and need something to look forward to. And football, soccer does that. That's its function, as well as being a sport and whatever. It's something to look forward to, and that's why we love our football, and we can look forward to it, win, lose, or draw.
Yeah. But like you said, literally, back in the day, it was supposed to be like a escapism from the Monday to Friday grime of work. Yeah. But now you see Monday night football, Wednesday night football, Thursday night football. Gone are the days, Saturday, 3 p.m. Those days are gone now. Well, no. At least. Anyway. James, how are you, my friend?
Very well, thank you, guys. Good to speak to you again. And busy with the football interviews and tying up a few loose ends, and always good to be busy in that respect.
Brilliant. So, like I said to the guys before we went live, there's just like one new segment that I want to talk about very, very quickly before we talk about everything else, Arsenal related, of course, and it's in regards to Alexander Lacazette. That's just some news that's come out from the Express, if you believe this news segment or not. Alexander Lacazette has just 18 months left on his contract, and the Express are saying that Arsenal preparing to sell the hitman due to so-called strained relationship with Mikel Arteta. I don't believe it. Strained relationship with Mikel Arteta. I'm not going for that. It's the Express. It's the Express newspaper. Nah. That was it. That was the new segment. So, guys.
The only thing I can think, and I don't give credibility to almost any newspaper article I read these days, but the only thing I can think is obviously how fingers have been burned with the man who will not be mentioned, but it starts with an O and an umlaut on top of it. And our fingers have been burned, and we have this strange situation in sport where somebody gets a contract for 3 or 4 years and then they can down tools or just not play well or drop below their standards that they're being paid to produce. And nobody seems to have any way of saying, well, we need to terminate your employment, or we need to put you on notice to improve, which happens in every walk of life that I've ever come across. And yet footballers, and I believe it must be across many sports, seem to be able to play well as they lead up to a new contract. And it may be a psychological thing as well, that we've all noticed that Lacazette, just like Ozil did, and a lot of people forget this, and I watched him very carefully in the 2 or 3 months leading up to signing the sort of fateful contract. And my goodness, he was running everywhere. he was scampering around and he was tackling back and doing all the things we were desperate for him to do subsequently. And shortly after signing the contract, there was a dip in his form, and it continued to dip until we couldn't play him. He just, football did change, and the use of the sort of number 10 was either defunct or less important, or just changed its role, really. And unfortunately, we're beginning to see a little bit of that with Aubameyang, a dip in form. He's got his gold-plated Cadillac or Lamborghini or whatever it is he drives around in, and there's been a dip in form, and it's the way of the world. When people reach something that they thought was unreachable and unattainable, which I'm sure both of those players did as young children, young kids, then mentally they relax. And of course, at the top level of any sport, if you relax, you kind of lose that extra 10 or 20%. And I think that's what we're partially seeing now. Now, there are players who don't react that way. And the really obvious one that stares us in the face at the moment is Jamie Vardy. You could seemingly pay him almost any amounts of money, and the guy will pull out a wonderful performance match after match. But I think from what you're saying, it sounds like we've had our fingers burnt by the man who will not be named. And now Arsenal are thinking, well, if Lacazette's playing well, wonderful, but he's 29 knocking on the door of 30, and that should be, as Wenger did, God bless him, he realised that once players knock on the door of 30, there's always a danger that unless they keep themselves incredibly fit and are lightly built the way Vardy is, the sort of hunger dies a little bit. And even the great Ian Wright, his performances dropped off when he got to about 32. But we obviously can't continue with this system of putting players on the most wonderful 3 or 4 year contracts. And then the sort of performance drops off. And I'm not saying it's on purpose. Who knows? I can't get inside Ozil's head. But it's either on purpose or it's psychological or it's a little bit of both. But it seems, I would hope that this new guy we've got coming in as a sort of a managing director type role, I would have hoped he'll be looking at this. He's actually got a lawyer's background, and maybe looking at seeing if there's any other way of writing a contract that stipulates you've got to keep up to a level of performance. And as I say, in our job of teaching, you have to. And you're performance managed all the time, and you're given criteria you have to achieve. And why doesn't that apply to elite sportsmen? After all, they aren't earning £20,000 or £30,000 a year. They're earning millions, and yet the one person who doesn't seem to have to answer for that is the person earning millions, and it's our money that they're being paid.
James, would you like to comment on this? Well, I know we tried to talk about it on the East Talk on Friday, and do you want to add anything on that, James?
Well, first and foremost, I think Terry makes a great point, and I think what Arsenal have got to start to do is they've got to start to become ruthless, and I mean absolutely ruthless. We remember the period of George Graham. We remember the period of the board where you never heard a peep out of them. We have to be now completely ruthless, and I can't see this ownership model. I can't see this board being ruthless. I think fans, particularly the younger generation, even if we were to show a ruthless side and change tack, I think the fans would also get the hump. But therein lies the dilemma. If you show that you are ruthless and you don't cower to young fans that have never seen players play, that will laud these players, likes of Ozil, likes of Lacazette, likes of Aubameyang, they'll even tell you that they're world class. And as I said on many times on different Arsenal podcasts and on this Arsenal podcast, I've been a fan for more than 30 years. I find myself in the middle of a corona pandemic saving hard to hopefully be able to return to go to football and watch my team play, especially away games that I never got round to going to, like Molineux, St Mary's and King Power, for example. And I've said on many occasions before, until a new owner comes in and sweeps clean. You see, I get Arsenal doing these little small backroom changes, but is that really going to help? Are they really going to have the influence, or are they just going to toe the line? And for me, until a new owner comes in and is completely ruthless in terms of his own style, it's his money, maybe being a little bit more protective, maybe being a little bit more aware and a little bit more forthright, especially towards the fans. Not in terms of dictating, but just being aware of what's going on. Because at the minute we're just going around in circles. I mean, if you think we left Highbury now, 15 years ago, and look at the state we're in. I don't think any Arsenal fan thought that we would end up in the position we are today. We were told moving to the Emirates would mean that we would compete. What it's led to one of the most highest paid players in Arsenal's history being paid off £8 million to leave. If that is not a sign of a club that's not being well run properly, I don't know what is. So for me, it's not about one player. It's not about one board member. It's not about one fan or the clout that certain fans think they have. For me, until the current ownership is in place, until the current regime is in place, I really can't see any significant progress at all.
Yeah. Just following on from Terry's point about players, even under Arsene Wenger, once they reach the age of 30, he would only offer a year's extension. Do you think there probably could be a cause to bring those parameters back in at Arsenal, James?
Potentially, but one point I'd like to make is that obviously I deal with professional players and managers at all different levels of world football almost every day of my life, and timing is everything in football. Timing of manager coming in, timing of signing for a new club, timing of getting that good youth prospect. And you have to be aware now that in this day and age, clubs are receiving spam, even on WhatsApp. We've got this player, you've got to come and take a look at him. We've got on this agent in particular that has got a really, really good player. And you need to have a lot of courage to make what I say are unpopular decisions. And I see Kroenke piling his money into the LA Rams and making sure that they're all right, making sure that they can challenge and that they've got a beautiful $4 billion stadium. And it just sees Arsenal as a healthy investment, and that's it. And you think of the days when we had, Danny Fisman, Peter Hillwood, David Dean, Ken Fryer. These were not only competent businessmen, but every decision they made, was with the best interest of Arsenal Football Club at heart, and that's not happening now. Yeah. That's not happening now. I mean, we've got friction within the fan base where Ozil fans are describing Arsenal as a tiny club in London. Now, if you're an Arsenal fan, you never say that. If you know your history, if you knew your history, you would know that we used to be the flagship club in London. We used to be out on our own, head and shoulders above the rest. And then Chelsea, obviously, not just because of Abramovich. I think people that say Chelsea only became big because of Abramovich, I think they're being very naive, because they were always a very dangerous side before that. But I just think we've rested on our laurels for far too long. And when you've got Leicester signing the likes of Castagna, Sonjiku, and the likes of Dennis Praat, who came through at Anderlecht, if Arsenal signed these players, people would turn their noses up. Oh, we don't want him, he's rubbish. We don't want him, he's rubbish. They're not rubbish players. Leicester are doing what we should be doing. Look at Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes was out on loan at West Brom last season, a club that looked after him. I think he played in excess of 55 games for West Brom in the Championship, and it got him ready to play Premier League football, and he doesn't look out of place. And so Leicester are kind of like the blueprint for me at the minute in terms of Arsenal, in terms of what we need to get to. An owner that actually cares. Yes, they've had to deal with a disaster and a terrible tragedy, but the new owner has kept his word, where the welfare of the club is the most important thing. And it wouldn't surprise me if Leicester make more progression in Europe than what Arsenal do this year. Wouldn't surprise me at all. And Leicester have hardly played in Europe in recent seasons, and we've had in excess of what 22, 23, 24 years, and it's just completely been taken for granted.
Can I back that up? Because I've been watching Leicester's development over the years, and it's not by accident that they're up at the top of the English Premier League. They've got a wonderful backroom team. As James was saying, they've got whichever team is involved in organising who they're going to sort of sell and buy, they're hitting winners more often than losers. They've got a very good youth structure coming along. And it's more about structure, because a few years ago, when a lot of clubs realised that they had a wonderful backroom team that were finding some golden nuggets in some of the lower leagues and some of the lower European leagues, people started to cherry pick their youth development officers and scouts, but it didn't work. Everton got a guy called Steve Walsh. Signed him. They said, right, he's the guy that was the main guy behind Leicester's revival, but it didn't work because Steve Walsh was unceremoniously booted out because he only worked well as part of a team. And in pursuance of this, I got in touch with a guy, I think his name is George Bird, and he's on Twitter, spelt Jorge, and he's got a real handle on the Arsenal youth players coming through. And I did ask him, has he got any updates on who's left after the cull of all our scouts and reserve coaches and youth coaches, apart from Per Mertesacker, who's left? And he didn't know. He said it's difficult to sort of get a handle on it. And I'd love to know who's left, because I'm worried. I think our youth development system has worked extremely well over recent years. Unfortunately, we keep allowing players who are good to sort of go off and join other clubs. And obviously, great players obviously don't become wonderful until they're in their early 20s. But I couldn't find out how Leicester are doing it, because obviously there's a structure there. It's not just an individual person like Steve Walsh that's doing it. It's a system and a structure that brings forward their youth players, but also a bit like George Graham did in his early days, bringing in players that people haven't really spotted before. But I think Lee Dixon was player of the season was it? Did he come from Stoke?
Yeah.
And Stevie Bolden, and Nigel Winterburn was player of the season in his previous club, Wimbledon. And a lot of these players came from the sort of lower leagues. And Leicester are doing this, whatever the secret is, and it must be this backroom team structure. They are managing to do this. And of course, as James said, if we had an owner who was resident here and was looking after the sort of club as a custodian as well as an owner, he would be very worried about what's going on, because we're seeming to overpay our so-called elite players, and they down tools to all intents and purposes. And our younger players are not allowed enough time, maybe going out on loan, to sort of develop their talents until we can slot them into the first team. And I do worry now that we don't seem to know what's left of our backroom team, and what's the sort of way forward. Because as James was saying, I don't think our way forward is to spend massive sums of money on so-called elite players. I think those days are gone. If we're going to try and keep inside our means, then we won't be able to do that, because all we're doing is spending enormous sums of money, and then players like Ursula Downing tools.
Let me go into, actually, before I go into the live chat, there was some sad news over the weekend. An understudy to Bob Wilson, Jeff Barnet, had passed away age 74. He actually played from 1969 to 1976, and he also played in the FA Cup final 1972 against Leeds United. So like I did over the weekend, we sent all our condolences to the Barnet family. I don't know if there's anyone watching who's connected to the family, but please pass on our condolences to the Barnet family. Very, very sad.
Here,
Very, very sad news.
Yeah.
here.
Let me go to the live chat just for the first time and see who's joined us this evening. Got Connor Young says, "Hello, Alex. Happy Mexit Erzing out day." I know what you're talking about. I'm not gonna. I'm saying nothing. We will celebrate Mexit with a glorious win. Emerson for a goal. Nothing to the Arsenal. And yeah, naughty. You've been very, very naughty. I'm saying nothing. My moderator for the evening, Monty says, "Hi, Alex and Canon 40 TV family." Yeah, still going on about our number 10. Who else has come in here? I've got Ofori J64. It says, "Good evening, Alex. It's been a while, actually, Ofori J. I hope you're well, my friend. Happy New Year to you." The Assembled says, "Good evening, gentlemen, and good evening to you as well." The Assembled. Come on, any questions for my guests? Majid A says, "Hi, Alex, Eltel, and James."
Hello.
Hi there.
Hello, Alex, James, and Eltel. I hope you're fabulous. Have a fabulous day. Yes, we are all fine, I believe. A little bit chilly over here. So look, Majid says, "Sell Lacazette, loan Nketiah in the summer, then bring in a new striker and also promote Balogun." Eltel?
Well, I would sell Lacazette, and I would very seriously consider selling Alba. I really would. It looks like Nketiah. People forget we actually got him as if you like a Chelsea reject. He was in Chelsea's youth team and then came across to us. So other professionals have had doubts about him, and he's certainly quick around the box, but it isn't just about that these days. Balogun, I think, is off and going. Bye. He's yet another one we've lost. Having said that, I have seen him play, and I was no more impressed by him than I have been by Eddie and Nketiah. If anything, he looked a little bit cocky. He looked a little bit as if he didn't care if the shots went wide. So I don't know if there's an attitude problem there. But I know people have waxed sort of lyrical about keeping him. But, listen, you've been offered a place to play for Arsenal Football Club, and they're obviously going to pay you well. If it isn't enough for you, then off you go. There's plenty of other players.
James, I do worry about, back in the summer, I was just pulling my hair out when I heard that 55 members of staff, had been let go by Arsenal, in this pandemic. And then lo and behold, I actually found out a lot of those members of staff were the scouting network in Scandinavian countries. So, what do we have in place now? Is it like agents network, jobs for the boys? What's going on at Arsenal, James?
Well, first and foremost, the majority of fans, and I say it in inverted commas, got what they wanted, and that was Aubameyang's contract extension. They lauded the way that he was so close to the fans and does so much to the fans and FaceTimes and does on Instagram with fans. Well, last time I checked, he was a footballer, so never mind what he does with fans. And people literally fawning over themselves to literally, "Oh, please sign our contract. You're the only one that can score our goals. Who else is going to score our goals?" And I just think, you reap what you sow. And I was criticised heavily when I said that Arsenal would finish 7th. I was criticised heavily when I said sell Aubameyang. But as I say, what do I know? I only deal with professional players and managers and technical directors and chairmen and agents. So what do I know? But I just think as well, one important factor to come out of this, people, I think they talk too easily about loan. Oh, loan him out here, loan him out there. I want to make it clear to viewers, and I've said it before, for people that don't know. For the majority of players that go out on loan, for the very first time in their lives, they are living independently without their family, without their parents, without their mum or dad. So a lot of them are living independently on their own, learning life skills for the very first time. And we have to look at the welfare of these young players when sending them out on loan. I maintain to recalling Nketiah last season was a mistake. Yes, he scored the odd goal, but when you go out on loan, it's simply not the case of just playing games, which a lot of people think it is. It's the whole package. It's the whole package of becoming independent as a player, There was a wonderful quote from Arsene Wenger about the loaning of young players years ago, when he said that it's the last piece of the jigsaw for a young player going out on loan, where they go into a first team dressing room where players are fighting for win bonuses, where you become very mature very quickly. And we've got Ballard and McGuinness out on loan. Both are doing really, really well. Both deserve to be included in the first team squad next season. And I just think to myself, people are far too easy to say loan this one, loan that one. Well, where are you loaning them to? There's different clubs have even a loan section where head of loans, or involved in the selecting of the club that the player is going to go to. And I personally think that we've neglected that. I think that Ballard can play to a lot higher level than what Blackpool is at the moment. I think the McGuinness loan to Ipswich is a good move, but I think going forward we've got to be a lot more careful about where we send our younger players and why we are sending them there. Are we sending them there to make way for a starry-eyed, wonderful player who nobody heard of 3 months ago, like Slabosay? Everybody was all over him, and then before 3 months ago they'd never heard of him. Julian Brunt's exactly the same. 3 months ago they'd never heard of him, and now you're looking at other players as well. And I would so dearly love a new owner to come in and literally sweep with a huge broom clean, and to have the gumption to say, right, we are not going to sign any more defenders because we've already got 12. What we're going to do is we're going to sell, and then we're going to promote 2 from the academy, and they'll be given a pathway to the youth team. People say about, we've given a pathway to the youth team. Saka was an accident in terms of nobody expected it to happen, but it did. Smith Rowe, I watched him play European football against the likes of Sporting Lisbon, so you knew even in November 2018 that he was ready. Kieran Tierney is coming into force after his injury, but I just think that we've got to change tact and quickly, and I really cannot see it happening in the current setup, because when Arteta leaves and Edu leaves and Mertesacker leaves, they'll all go on to different clubs. Maybe they'll go on to better things, but the club will still remain. And I still remember the match day programme I went to Arsenal Aston Villa in December 2001, when the front programme of the front page of the programme was Hillwood and Wenger doing a handshake over the model of what the Emirates would be. We're going to be moving to the Emirates, and I look at that and how heart-wrenching it was to move from Highbury to where we are now, and it's in hindsight, it's just been an awful decision. We were told that we were going to compete with Bayern Munich and the other elite, but nobody tapped anybody on the shoulder to say, have you seen the monopoly that Bayern Munich have in the Bundesliga? Have you seen the monopoly that Real Madrid and Barcelona have in Spain in terms of TV rights? We're not going to have that in England, but it was a little bit pie in the sky. And hindsight is a wonderful thing, but chickens really are coming home to.
Yeah. Go back into the live chat. My moderator for the evening says, please give a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new here. And my good friend Brian Nielsen, good evening. Happy New Year to you, my friend. I hope you're well. And it's been a while since you've come back into the live chat, but I hope you're keeping well, my friend. Here's a question for you, Eltel. This one says, do you believe Arsenal have a plan apart from scaling back their outgoings and maximising their incomings?
Well, I believe Arteta's got a plan, because he's at the football end, if you like, of the club, the performance end. And he keeps on about saying we've got a process. He uses that word a lot, and he says we know who we want to buy in each transfer window. Obviously, that sometimes has to change because of the way certain players' form is going. But I see that as the plan in terms of scaling back their outgoings and maximising their incomings. I'm not so sure. I don't think Kroenke or his son have got us firmly in their sights. Luckily, we've finally got this guy in that is going to be some sort of managing director. He's got a lot of experience. In fact, there's an interview online, if people want to find it, of him about 3 or 4 years ago. He was the CEO, whatever, for West Brom, and he was at a supporters forum, and he was answering questions very lucidly, and he obviously knew his stuff. He's actually legally trained as a lawyer. And I'm hoping that he has, or he will, once he gets his feet under the table, develop some kind of a plan. But I don't see the plan, because our initial plan was to have such a big stadium that we'd have match day receipts would be fantastic, and you'd have people paying big money at club level and platinum level and all the other different levels. I don't think they're worried about a hoi polloi so much. That's the common rabble. But obviously they had a plan to be able to milk the Arsenal supporting people for big money. But that's all gone out of the window since sort of Sky came in and offered the big bucks. And we've been caught, really. We've had to change horses midstream. We kind of pumped we got this massive debt and built a brand new stadium, and then found out that however big the stadium was, our real income stream was going to come from Sky and from televised soccer matches. So I don't think they've ever come to terms with that. And the first person that walks in there and comes to terms with that has at least turned the first page of finding out how we maximise our potential. I do feel as well that when we lost David Dein, we again lost a key person, because he had originally planned that they wouldn't actually move it into the site we're on now. He wanted there was at the time an empty site just north of King's Cross Station. So if you're standing where King's Cross Station is now and look towards where Arsenal is, which is about probably 2.5-3 miles away as the crow flies, there was a massive site there that was completely derelict. And that was his plan, to actually buy that, open up the disused train station at the time between Caledonian Road and King's Cross, which was called York Way, give that a rename as the new Arsenal. And the place, because it wasn't overlooked by any buildings, it would then function as during the summer, it could be a rock concert venue or a classical concert venue. And so he had big dreams and big plans, and that was circumvented by all the politics that went on until we finally settled upon where we are now. We are hemmed in by all kinds of rules, and sort of we could only build the stadiums so many feet high and so on. And I really think we, in terms of looking at money coming in and maximizing that, I don't think they have a plan that actually works anymore. In terms of scaling back outgoings, we've got to get these ridiculously highly paid players out of it. I'm sorry, I don't go with this thing of, if the player's wonderful, let's pay him an inordinate sum of money. I would rather be looking around for players who there's 1 or 2 players around, like Zaha used to be an Arsenal fan. He says he's gone off the idea now. But, if you're an Arsenal fan and they come to you and they say, look, we're stuck for cash. And I go, listen, you're going to pay me millions anyway. So get some of those guys in. And on the same thing, I like the way Emile Smith-Rowe said that when he scores or sets up a goal, he creates an assist. It's great that he does it with players. He came through as a young boy from the age of 9 or 10 at Arsenal. And I've been to Hale End. I've seen the way it works there. These guys, from when they're young kids at school all the way through to their young men at 18 or 19, they are real close friends, and that's the future. That's the future of Arsenal. Get this scouting network, which seems to have been working. Goodness knows who's left in our scouting network now. But keep that going and put some investment in these kids. Get them into the team. I mean, I'll give you one thing. Arteta is a very, very good coach. We can talk about this later. if you like. But he's a very good coach of individual players, and he will make good players better and really good players excellent. And that's the one thing we've got in our stead. I mean, I have noticed that he's worked, I'm absolutely sure, on Xhaka's defending and his tackling. And although it hasn't worked fully, I've noticed he's made the most defensive tackles in the most recent games, and occasionally he falls over his own feet. But because he's learning a new way of playing, a way of addressing the ball. But I think Arteta's got that in his armoury. The question is, having been that kind of person with Pep Guardiola, is he going to be able to be a full sort of a manager and not just a coach? So we are in a hiatus, I think, between the old model of let's build a really big stadium and let's get massive great gate receipts, which doesn't work anymore. And yes, as James was reminding us, we were sold. I don't think it was a lie, but things moved on. Once we embarked upon that road, and there was all the shenanigans of different of David Dean going out and other people taking over the reins, we somehow lost our way, and we're still running on an outmoded platform. I've often wondered whether people should be paying for Sky. Actually, I would much rather pay for an Arsenal platform that profits went straight to Arsenal, and I watched Arsenal games. Instead, people are paying for Sky and BT and all these other things. Well, actually, if you're an Arsenal fan, why can't we have an Arsenal channel where we can watch the Arsenal games? I know lots of friends who would happily pay maybe a £5 or a £10 or 15 quid a game and enjoy the game, and I don't think that's too much to ask our fan base.
You know what, Tel? I always get emotional whenever I have to talk about the old Highbury Stadium, because I remember when we were told that we're going to be moving from Highbury, we're going to be competing, against the elite clubs. And hindsight is a wonderful thing. We didn't really have to move from the old stadium. We didn't have to move.
No, I went to that last game against Wigan, and we started losing it, if I remember rightly. I think we won it 4-3 or something. And I had a friend of mine next to me, Irish guy, and he's a good bit sort of younger than me. And he said, "Tell, you've got a tear in your eye. This is at half time." I said, "Oh, it's just a bit of dust,
A big piece."
But it was sad to see it go. And obviously, as a young lad going over there, as a young teenager, I used to really enjoy. We won the Fairs Cup there in City's Fairs Cup, and I ended up on the pitch somehow. And I had very happy memories of that, and meeting George Armstrong wearing an Anderlecht shirt and tapping him on the back and chatting to him and congratulating him. And I suppose, those of us of a certain vintage have very happy memories. I'm not saying that had to continue forever. But we do have they call it the Highbury Library, Arsenal Stadium. It is cavernous. And I think one of the biggest problems they've got with it is you're stuck with your seat number. You're stuck sitting next to people you don't know particularly well. And I know where I was sitting up in was it the West Stand I was in? And if I started roaring and cheering, I'd have been told, "Shut up and sit down and be quiet." Whereas if I was like 17 or 18 and amongst mates, as you could do when you could just walk in and stand in the North Bank or the Clock End, then you could generate an atmosphere. It's very difficult to generate an atmosphere now.
Yeah. Let me go back in.
Especially as well with the worldwide audience. Especially as well with the worldwide audience. I've been at Arsenal. I mean, obviously, I come all the way from Amsterdam to London to watch Arsenal play, and win, lose or draw, it's always very special. And motivated, singing, encouraging, shouting things out. And I remember being at a match against Montpellier in November 2012, and I was doing my thing in the upper Clock End in block 116, and I got a tap on the shoulder by two gentlemen, and they said, "Excuse me, can we ask you where you're from?" I said, "From around here." I said, I was born in Hampstead. I said, I now live in Amsterdam. I said, I've come all the way from Amsterdam tonight to watch the game. I could fly home in the morning. I said, what about you guys? Oh, we're from Singapore. We're in London. We thought we'd take in the game. And I think that's why the problems with the atmosphere. I mean, I remember Atletico Madrid in the semi-final of the Europa League being a good atmosphere. I remember AC Milan being a good atmosphere when we beat them 3-0 in 2012. I remember Tottenham being a good atmosphere in Emery's wonderful derby win. But other than that, there's not been too many great atmospheres, and as you say, you've got people literally that come all over the world. And, football is a world game now, but also the elements of the commercial elements where, I don't buy shirts anymore. I haven't done for more than a decade. Give me a match day program any day and I'm as happy as Larry. But, you see the prices of the shirts and the quality of the shirts. I mean, I brought my 71 replicas home and away nigh on 15 years ago. They cost me a lot of money, but they're still going strong to this day and age. And, you see that cannon on your chest and it means an awful lot. And I just think we're slowly losing our way. And it's quite sad, really, for a lot of people who've put so much time and effort into going to watch the team play. I mean, obviously, from my point of view, I remember where I had days where I would, I'd return to Amsterdam and I'd go about my daily business, and this conversation would turn to football, and people would say to me, "Did you enjoy the game last night?" I said, "I was there," and they'd look at me as if to say, "But we're in Amsterdam." I said, "Yeah." I said, "I flew back this morning." I said, and it was all, it's, you put so much effort into going to watch the games, and sometimes you feel a little bit. I must say, it's just my personal opinion, but the away games I went to last season and the season before, Craven Cottage and Carrow Road and Bramall Lane, even though we only won one of those games, the away games are really kind of what's spurring me on to get back, really. But, and also as well, the game, there are bigger clubs than Arsenal. I know it's an awful thing to say, but you've got to be realistic. If you want to get real, then first and foremost, there are two clubs in England bigger than what we are, and that is Manchester United and Liverpool. And that's a fact. If you want to get real about world football, then you've got 6 clubs that are literally the pantheon of world football, and that is Real Madrid, AC Milan, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, Ajax, Benfica. These are absolutely massive clubs. And even though the leagues in Portugal and the Netherlands might not be very strong, the fact remains that to play for these clubs in particular is a massive thing. And ambition is great, but Leicester have shown us the way, in my opinion. And I, for one, will. I'll be pleased for them in an English football sense, but I'll also feel slightly embarrassed if they make more progress in Europe this year than what we do, like Wolves did last year. And people say, "Oh, Champions League, we can still get top 4." You must be joking. I love a European night as much as the next schooner, but I just think we're nowhere near ready for European football at the moment. It's anything but a distraction. So we've had it for nigh on a quarter of a century. Let's think about those memories. Let's have some time out, and let's go again when we're ready to go.
Yeah.
And a lot better equipped.
Sorry, I did say something very quickly. True Guna is one of my other moderators. He's in the live chat. True Guna, if you can send me an email, the email is in the description. I need to talk to all my my moderators about a couple of issues. So True Guna, I think you're still in the live chat. Can you send me an email? I need to talk to all my moderators who moderates across the whole platform. So sorry, Terry, you're going to say something. Sorry, Terry.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking of the sort of future, really, and we're all hoping that Arsenal could get a new owner in as soon as possible, but I'm afraid I don't see that happening. I think Stanley Kroenke knows that we're going to have a European League. It's been mooted for such a long time, which is why we have a Champions League. If people think back, we didn't have a league format for the most of the years of what we now call the Champions League or the European Cup. We had a knockout competition. And then when teams threatened to break away, and Arsenal were very, in that group of teams, they came up with this sort of league format. And so you have a little league of 4 teams playing each other. So that gives you 6 matches. And then you go to the sort of knockout format. And I've no doubt at all that within the next 2 or 3 years, well, it depends on the pandemic, that has put everything on hold. But certainly it's in the offing at some point that we'll have a European league where the big teams in all the big leagues in Europe pull out of their local league, pull out of their local FA, I guess, and that they'll be part of a European league. So on a regular basis, if we're in that group, and Stanley Kroenke will be rubbing his hands thinking of what this means, we'll be playing Real Madrid one week, Barcelona the next week, Bayern Munich the week after that, Inter Milan, AC Milan, Ajax Amsterdam, Benfica, all these top clubs. And we will be playing some of them in the States. They've got massive stadiums there, and it's no big deal to fly 2 big European clubs over there to play a match there. So that's the future. And you have to remember that the American market is so massive and is worth so much money. I know in the music business that I do know a little bit about, you can do very well in England. But if you break the American market, financially you're in the stratosphere, and that is exactly what Stanley Kroenke is waiting for. That's why he's not too worried about how it ticks along now, because at some point we'll have a European league. Arsenal, please God, will be in it, and then football will look completely different, and that's the way it's going.
Let me go back into the live chat.
It makes your stomach turn, doesn't it? It makes your stomach turn. I love football. I love interviewing professional players and managers, but it makes your stomach turn. I saw on the Spanish news the other day that in 2024 they're going to be meeting soon to see about Champions League changes, where they're either going to keep it as it is, or they're going to extend it to 36 teams and have 6 groups of 6, with the top 2 going through to the last 16, and the best, the 4 best third place finishes. But it makes your stomach turn, because you think, who is going to be able to afford to go to Lisbon one week, or go to Paris 3 weeks after, or go to Munich 3 weeks after that? And also, what constitutes a massive football club? If you had a survey, like, to give you an example, if you ask me, who is the biggest club in France? My reply would be Marseille, not Paris Saint-Germain, Marseille. When you look at the history of a particular country, when you look at what's gone before, Stade Reims reached a European Cup final. So did we. So did St Etienne. Atletico. St Etienne. Sorry. Mönchengladbach, of course, as well. And these are teams that have reached big European finals in the past, and Club Brugge as well, to Liverpool in the 70s. Are they now no longer relevant? And it makes me think, how on earth are you going to choose who is going to be accepted in this inner circle? Because having travelled the world like I have, and combined it with a lot of football in the last 10 to 15 years, you see that the local element, like on Friday night, we had Benfica Porto. It's the biggest game in Portugal. We also had the Rome Derby. Are you going to take that away from the people then? Are you going to take it away from them? That they're not going to have it anymore? I've had European trips to Milan and to Amsterdam and a fair few others, and it's the memory which sticks with you, and the people that you met. It's not necessarily the game. It's everything around it. I remember when I first came to Amsterdam to watch Ajax against Arsenal in 2003. I was 19 years old, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It changed my life, because I emigrated here 2 years later. But the people that we met, the things that we saw going around the city, the game was an awful game. in the words of my grandfather, you went all that way for a 0-0 draw. You must be gutted. I said, no, I had a great time. But, all this European Super League, and like Terry says about going to the States, football is slowly starting to eat itself. It's slowly, and it's sad, really, because when the last morsel is finished, what happens then? Aston Villa, one of the biggest clubs in England, they're doing really well because they've learnt from their mistakes. Are they never going to be European champions? European champions again? They've won the Champions League. They've won the European Cup. People will tell you they haven't, but they have. And people like to say, "Oh, football didn't exist before 1992." It did. It started in 1888, and Arsenal, obviously, 1886 with Dial Square, of course. And you can't erase history. I know we're in a very difficult time in society where, people can't agree to disagree on nothing anymore. But the fact remains, whether it's politics, whether it's sport, whether it's any kind of entity, you cannot erase history. What has happened has happened, and it's important to remind people of that.
Guys, I have to go back into the live chat just quickly because the live chat just kind of packed out. With the new director of operations coming in, it could mean in the future we look more into UK to get players, and also it could also give us an advantage in regards to the Brexit hotel.
Hey, well, that's the first time I've thought of anything about Brexit that might possibly help. I mean, yes, we aren't allowed to take any young lads on now until they're 18. So I suppose that's one bonus, because it means some of our younger players, we might have to invest a little bit more time in them. But I'm not really thought about whether Brexit is going to impinge on things. But yes, it would be good to see some more local lads coming through, and some more youth players coming through. I mean, we had an influx, as Alex knows, of his favourite player, Liam Brady. But in that same Liam Brady team, we had Frank Stapleton, David O'Leary, John Devine. We had Sammy Nelson, and all those guys came through. And there were quite a few more, actually. But those are the ones that sort of stuck around a long time. But it's much more fun if you're watching Arsenal play with some of our youth products. And on the back of that as well, I'd like to make a quick comment on at the moment, we're in such a difficult situation. People at home are losing their jobs, or they're being furloughed, or they're on 80% of their regular pay. And in the middle of all this, belt tightening, we have players like the fella who will not be mentioned, who has been earning more than a king's ransom. And there's something wrong in this. There should always be a link. I think James was kind of hinting at this. There should always be a link between the sort of local area and the local people going to a football match, putting their hand in their pocket, whatever bit of change they have in their pocket. They've had a hard week at work. They put their hand in their pocket and they go and watch a match. I mean, people may not know this, but the reason why there were so many clubs around about the time that Arsenal were formed in 1886. And if you look around when Aston Villa and all these clubs were formed, it's all in a kind of a 10 or 20 year period around then. And it was because the government at the time in late Victorian England brought in, instead of people going to work for 6 days a week, they did a 5.5 day week. So the players were spilling out of the factories, i.e. Woolwich Armaments Factory, on a Saturday afternoon, and they said, well, what shall we do now? And they either kicked a football match or went to see a football match. So football should always have its link, or to me, most sports should have a link with the sort of local area, and that gives you, if you like, your groundswell of support. And then, yes, by all means, we are living in a global village, or hopefully when the pandemic is over, we'll go back to people being able to fly in. It might be worth I know people around the world watch this. Every time I go to matches and you go queue up for the Arsenal tube going home, you hear different voices behind you, different accents. Sometimes I'll turn around and chat to them, and they could be from Norway or they could be from Brazil, or they could be from Germany. People come from all over. I've flown into England at different times from Ireland, and there's been lots of Arsenal people on the plane, or Tottenham supporters one day, and they all live in the west of Ireland, and they're flying in for a match. So I'm not saying we shouldn't have. That's great that you have people coming in from all over the world, and up to recently, you could fly in from another country and it wouldn't cost you a king's ransom. But so that's good. But I still think there's something at the heart of this game at the elite level, where these sportsmen are paid ridiculous sums of money. I know Kroenke and whoever runs Tottenham now has had to go to the Bank of England and get bridging loans out to keep the stadium or the Arsenal ticking over. There's something wrong with there being so much money in the game, but it's not going to make it more comfortable for fans. I mean, if you're in club level, people might be interested in this. If you're in club level, after the match, you can sit on sofas and comfortable chairs, and you can have a coffee or a beer. You can have food before the match. You can chat to your friends, and then if you do that for about an hour after the game, you can walk straight into the tube station without queuing, and all that's nice. But if you're not in club level or Diamond Club and all the other higher levels, then you're stuck either having a pint out in the freezing cold areas in the back of the stadium, or just going away and being freezing cold. I mean, this is supposed to be, the 21st century. Can't we with all the money that's washing around the game, can't we make things a little bit more? The whole package should be that you can go for, you can sit somewhere after the game and enjoy a coffee or a pint or some food, but you can't do that unless you're at the elite level. There's something wrong there. It's treating people like, I don't know, kind of, I was about to say cannon fodder, but maybe I shouldn't say that.
Cheers, Tel.
Now I know why you named it cannon fodder. We're all cannon fodder lads.
There's no getting away from that. Monty says, I agree with James. The way the board is running things, it's hard to see things drastically changing unless Kroenke and his co goes. Let's keep on run through this very, very quickly before we wrap this one up. The symbol says, imagine Arsenal had a world-class academy that Arsenal decided to sell rather than use the players as a pathway into the first team.
Yeah.
Connor Young says the Rams are all done with the season now. Perhaps he will turn his attention to Arsenal now. I doubt it very much. Colin.
Doubt it very much.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. DS on Electronics Unlimited says a tiny club. Yes.
That's one of the things. I reacted to a tweet earlier on this week where someone was trying to compare Dennis Bergkamp with Ozil, upon which I stated that I don't think many Ozil fans are aware of what Dennis Bergkamp did at Inter Milan and Ajax, upon which I received abuse to the tune of, I won't repeat what it was, and then people saying that Arsenal are a tiny club. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Ozil also plays for Werder Bremen and Schalke. But, it's also a sign of the times where the modern football fan, I don't think they're interested in the game. They're not interested in the game. They're interested in the player. They're interested in the commercial element of the player, the Instagram of the player. Oh, did you see he spoke to such and such a fan on Instagram? Well, personally, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in how did he play against such and such a team. For me, I always want to know everything. Obviously, when you're dealing with players and managers, you've got to do your due diligence at all times. And I just think the modern football fan, they're not interested in what's gone before. All they're interested in is the name, the reputation, the Instagram, and and I just think maybe I'm getting too old. Maybe I don't know, but. That's why I always say with my interviews, you go above and beyond to get the best piece that you can do and write the best piece that you can write.
Can I just make a comment on that? Because somebody, I don't follow any of the footballers on Instagram or anything like that, but somebody put up a tweet and there was an Instagram message from Mustafi to Ozil saying, you know, I'm sorry to see you go, and I'm sorry that we as a team weren't good enough for you and we weren't able to do this. And I'm thinking, how unprofessional. If you're going to talk to him, I mean, can you imagine that in any line of business? Oh, sorry, our school wasn't good enough to hold you. You're a wonderful member of staff, but we just weren't good enough. Wow. And yet he gets away. That's unprofessional. I'm not stopping freedom of speech, but don't air. If that's what Mustafi thinks. I've read the Theo, what's his name? Theo Foley's autobiography. God rest him. Theo would have grabbed him at the next opportunity by the throat and said, stop that stuff. I don't want to hear one criticism about Arsenal on a national broadcasting medium. How dare he say that? It's not true anyway. It's not true that we let Ozil down, but how dare you make a comment like that? The club are paying you enormous sums of money and you're turning around and biting the hand that feeds you, and in a self-righteous manner. No, unacceptable. Somebody get that into their contracts. Maybe this new guy will do that. Get it in. Everybody else I know, working for a company, working for whoever you're working for, you do not make these unprofessional comments for general, you know, perusal. And yet here we have a disgusting comment about how we as an Arsenal team weren't good enough for you. Sorry, the other way round. Sorry.
But that's also his mate, isn't it? But I fully concur with what Terry said, but it's also his mate, isn't it? So now it's all about showing the outside world. It's all about show. If he was any kind of a player, any kind of a man, he would have told him that in private. There would have been no need to give an Instagram message. And I don't have many followers on Twitter. I have almost 7,000. I wouldn't bother me if I had only 50. Doesn't matter. Does not matter one jot. But you have a responsibility to keep your integrity. You have a responsibility to keep your integrity at all times. And I just think that some players just think, you know, I've got to put it out for my followers to see, so they can see how good I am. But it's just an awful sign of the times. And you know, the thing is, we will get through this as a club. We will get through this malaise as a club, you know, and we will come out the other side. I don't know how old we will be, but you know, we'll come out the other side one day. But you know, you just have to take things. You just have to take things day by day in that respect. Just day by day.
There's James, a little bit of hope there. Des McLeod says, even gents, is it true we're going after the third Newcastle goalkeeper? So I don't know his name. I think it's Freddie Woodham. Yes, allegedly Arsenal are going for this goalkeeper. And it's
Well, I've
Robertson.
looked up. An interesting thing is his dad.
Never learn.
His dad is the under-23 goalkeeping coach.
Yeah.
Ex-professional goalkeeper. Whether this guy's good on, I don't know. He's currently on loan at Swindon, I think. At least he's 6'3", which I tweeted we probably won't bring him in then, because he's got a syndrome of some kind where if you're more than 5'11", he doesn't he's not interested in you.
Dear. Brian Nielsen says that the agent spamming is something that FIFA, UEFA must regulate. I'm getting mails with like links to videos of players. Yeah, because Brian, he's an agent as well as a coach. I have never heard of, and I'm not a coach in a top flight team. You said that right, didn't you say, James? You said that before, haven't you? That clubs are receiving spam.
Well, I can only go on the first-hand information that I've received from agents and players and managers that I've dealt with in the past, and you know, it's just a very, very strange time, and you know, also in a media sense where, you know, clickbait and that kind of thing, and you know, I'm not the only writer in the world, but I put my heart and soul into every single piece I write, whether it's Jamie Carragher, whether it's Graham Potter, Ricky Van Wolfswinkel, or a Dutch player playing in Denmark or Switzerland. You give your life to every single interview, and you hope it makes the difference. But my 5-year anniversary is coming up this year, so I'm hoping for a nice anniversary present.
Well, hey. Well, Brian actually says that.
But we shall see.
Brian actually says that most of these spams are coming from Spain and Italy. By paying the first team these high wages to maintain these players, we are selling our future and we're selling our soul to the devil. Personally, see who else can I get in here very, very quickly. Santiago, buenas noches, como le va? Says good evening, Alex and Eltel and James. So good to hear from experienced panel like yourselves. Such gentlemen and kind speech while expressing their opinions. Let's win today, Santiago. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you for your words. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a lovely message. Thank you very much indeed.
Who else do we have? Maybe just have another one from Brian. It says, how many seasons do you think it will take before the team have been rebuilt to challenge for? Oh my goodness, Terry.
Well, do you know what? The one thing we've.
I hope I'm still alive.
Yeah, we'll all be growing long beards. I think Arteta, if he stays, and remember, Solskjaer's team, Man U, dare I mention it, are playing well now. Hassan Huttle's team, Southampton, are playing well now. So, by and large, if you leave a manager for at least 2 seasons, that's the only way you're ever going to find out if he's any good. I think Arteta is proving to be an excellent coach. Well, he has proved to be an excellent coach. I think he's got a plan. Somebody mentioned earlier, does the club have a plan? I have no doubt that Arteta has a very detailed plan. I'm a little bit worried. We do look a little bit like Man City Mark II, the way he plays us. But we've got a big tall guy coming forward in the youth team, so maybe we will have a plan B. And he's a 6'4" guy, so it would be nice to see a different plan other than try and pass the ball through teams. By the way, I did notice the way Man City last night dribbled a lot more than Arsenal dribble. So I do hope that Arteta is going to get in people like Santi Cazorla, who can go past people, and run into that sort of that space in front of the box, zone 14 and so on. But I reckon it'll take him another 2 seasons for us to be up in top 4. I mean, I'd be very surprised. We're certainly not going to get top 4 this season. And I think we do well to get in the top 10 the way it's going. We aren't scoring goals. We've stopped leaking goals, but we certainly aren't scoring goals. We've still got this perennial problem of teams being able to run through our midfield area. They just run through it as though it sort of doesn't exist. We still haven't quite worked out how we deal with the sort of low block, albeit that being difficult. But if you're going to push into a low block, then you've got a choice. Do your defenders with 4 in the defence, do they hover around the halfway line, or do they push back further? Now, if you push back further, you create a massive hole in midfield. And that's what we've been doing most recently. We seem to be worried about the ball over the top, which Leicester caught us out with. And we seem to be keeping that back 4 quite deep. And then you leave this enormous space for teams that have got runners to sort of to play into. And really, as everybody spotted, it's our midfield that, if you like, is our weakest area. But I definitely would feel, and I'm going to look for it tonight, I really do hope that we do get that ball moving in midfield, and the forwards have got to keep moving. Ray Parlour made an interesting comment only recently, where he said, everybody knows what Ober's going to do now. He hangs on that left touch line and he spins on a defender's shoulder and runs into space. So what teams do is they develop a plan for that. And he said the simple thing, it's interesting coming from a footballer's point of view, he said he's got to start popping up in areas where defenders aren't used to him. So he's got to go occasionally, he's got to move across the other side of Lacazette. So he's suddenly, if you like, in the inside right place, and nobody's ready for him there because they've been drilling how they stop him moving in from the sort of left wing area. There's lots of stuff I think that Arteta will be working on. But sometimes I know people do criticise Arteta for over coaching them. I think sometimes, and we maybe have come to this now, apart from saying things very simple, keep it simple for Over. Look, I don't want you constantly doing the same thing. Go into places that we don't expect you. But sometimes you can overcoach a team, and you've got to sometimes step back a little bit. I mean, I know people have criticised us. We tend not to take a chance with our passing. Our passing is always safe, and it tends to be backwards or sideways, of course. And maybe they've been told, whatever you do, don't lose the ball. But Man City take risks. They play those through passes. But the trick is you've got to have your defence set up that they aren't going to be either bypassed because of a ball chucked in over the top, or they're not so deep that they leave a massive midfield space that teams can run through. All these are tactics that Arteta must be aware of, but his job, like any good teacher, is not to complicate it for the players. Give them simple roles and simple patterns of play that they can get used to playing. And I'm not sure he's had the team enough and long enough to be able to inculcate them with those ways of thinking.
All right, I have to go through the live chat very, very quickly for the last time. Cyril, good evening, Cyril. Says promote Hayne, Matt Smith, and Nicholas Mola, McGuinness, Swanson. But please refrain from also stating, why should a top European player want to join Arsenal? That's disrespecting our club. Who said that? Was it? I never said that. I didn't say that. What's going on with you, Cyril? Sort yourself out, Cyril. Arsenal is always linked with all the players in the world, but will end up buying none. Yeah. So I agree on youth. We need to have a look at these guys, give them a chance early next season in the cup. If they don't make the cut, sell them on with a 20% sell on clause. Go to the bottom because we're going for an hour and and then some change. What's going on here? Just a few more. Okay, maybe just this last one here, actually. Exactly why I put the question up about social media following a big player. Thank you, James and L. Tell. Guys, we're finished. We're finished. An hour and 10 minutes. Hour and 10 minutes of quality. I was in class today. I was in class getting another footballing lesson from James and L. Tell. Goodness. Come up from the corner of that hat with the letter. I'm saying nothing. Anyway, James. Quickly, James. Any other interviews you can talk us quickly about?
Just to give you a little bit of an update. My interview with Jason Cundy went very, very well. That one should keep your eyes peeled for that one. My next one on the secret footballer will be Hassan Cisse, the Gambian striker of and also include the likes of Brian Partisol and Gordon Moffat at Clydebank, and a few surprises too. So a really strong start to the year, and hopefully it'll be a very impressive year in that respect.
Good man.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Fantastic. El Tell, the original Godfather.
Yeah.
I've been asked for the last 2 weeks, El Tell, when is Terry coming back? Where's Ralph? Where's James?
Hey, I'm back. Well, I'm like a kid with a bag of sweets now because Arsenal are about to kick off in a little while, and it'll be great. I still get that buzz, that feeling in my tummy, and that's what makes us Arsenal fans. Once they pull on those Arsenal shirts, and let's hope for. It's going to be tricky tonight. I think we haven't spoken about tonight's match, but
we haven't.
We've got that big centre forward who causes all kinds of trouble, and if our goalkeeper gets injured, what are we going to do?
Yeah, actually, the Godfather's just reminded me. Actually, we're back in action tonight in the Premier League. Newcastle again. I've no doubt that we'll get the job done emphatically tonight. I'll be back quite late. It's going to be the graveyard shift tonight for me doing my post-game reaction at 10 p.m. UK time. The things I have to do. The things I have to do indeed. But anyway, Eltel, if you wouldn't mind, Eltel, join me on the Wednesday evening show if you are available. Available. Yes, I'll send you the link. And James, as always, James, it's a pleasure to have you on Canon 40 TV. I think you're probably one of the longest serving contributors on Canon 40 TV, James.
Yeah, possibly, and yeah, it's been good fun. I still remember the very early days when I used to come on, and yeah, I enjoy it. It's one of the Arsenal podcasts I enjoy the most. I appreciate the opportunity to plug a few of my interviews as well, and nice to give a different perspective. And onwards and upwards we go.
Brilliant. So that's it, guys. So I'll be back in quite a few hours' time to do the post-game reaction. Oh, dearie me. For my sins. Guys, I saw actually the viewers were just bobbing over 100 live views at any one time, and I just seen that the analytics over 1,000 viewers for this evening segment. So guys, thank you so very much for that. Make sure you subscribe to this wonderful channel and hit the bell notification button. Also go over and yeah, follow James Rowe. It's at James Rowe NL. That's right, isn't it? Yeah.
Correct. We're approaching 7,000 followers now after nearly 5 years. So
Goodness.
yeah, we'll just keep going. And as I say, I always like to give people a shout to say thank you for their support, and nice to provide good content as well.
Brilliant. So that's it. Those of you who's watching Canon 42 for the first time, make sure it's not the last time. Subscribe. And if you've been wondering, who or what you've been listening to, you've been listening to Canon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans all over this world. I'll see you in roughly 3 hours' time.